Good morning. Another day for me and my husband. He's in the background having a talk with his good friend Padmagarba Das, and right now I'm going to tackle this service in the kitchen. I have pre-washed everything here. I've got this lovely ripe papaya. Isn't that beautiful? You see the beautiful color there? You can see here how beautiful that's going to be on the inside. Very nice and fresh. I've got some beautiful green apples, some grapefruits, and a big bowl of greens. Okay, you see all these greens? Mixed greens. That's a huge amount in this very large vessel. Now that would be a challenge to eat all of that. I'm sure some people could do it, but I love to add that to the juice. These are all beautiful mixed greens, salad greens. Nice and fresh and organic, whatever that is for whoever grew this. And yes, so I'm going to pause the video while I set up, so not to bore you with the details of all the setup, and we'll get on with this. Thank you for being here. Okay, so I got the cutting board out for the prep. I've got a spoon to scoop the seeds out. I've got a sieve to put the seeds into. Now these seeds could be planted here, although the area that we live in Florida, if the weather is bad in the fall or later in the summer, very windy, if there's hurricanes, these trees tend to have, the papaya trees here tend to grow shorter root systems, and they can be knocked over by the hurricanes. But we have friends that grew them very well to a certain stage. The fruits were somewhat developed and they were on the greener side, but that can still be utilized. There's always a use, okay? So when the tree gets knocked over, then if there's a hurricane, you collect all the fruits and then distribute them among your friends if there's a sudden influx of a lot of fruit. So here we go, this beautiful papaya. As I had pre-cleaned everything, there you go. See how lovely that is. Isn't that beautiful? Okay. So those seeds you have to be careful with. I see some people online talking about consuming the seeds. Be careful if you are, well, I'll just mention that some people talk about from other countries where they know about these things. I've had friends tell me that these seeds can actually result in preventing pregnancy. Let's put it like that, okay? So these things have effects on the body, and you want to be conscious of that and very careful. And not that I know about that personally, but I've heard about it from people that visited with us. And I have not personally consumed the seeds, but we do put them back into our compost pile or plant them for some plants for the papaya trees and their resulting fruits. So you learn a lot when you get into the juicing and cleansing. And also there's a lot of learning with gardening and really and homesteading. There's always something to learn every day. Now, the biggest challenges we've faced are with our health. Okay? Now, one thing I forgot to do is typically I would peel it first. So now I've already done this, so I'm going to try to figure out how to proceed prepping this, and probably I'll just go like this. You see the peel? I have to remove this peel. Just do it like that. And we don't make a very big deal out of our compost pile here. We basically just have a huge, like different piles and sections, and we go and dump that there, and there are the different animals that will show up to snack on what we take outside. And then of course there's literally, you can't count how many little squirmy critters that are in that, creepy crawly squirmy critters that are in the compost pile, actually living off of what we bring there. So really there isn't any waste, you know, and what doesn't get utilized goes back into the ground, oops, to actually act as a type of natural plant green manure, right? That reactivates the soil, so you get very active soil where you live if you're planting and allowing things to go through the cycle of life in the garden back into the soil. People that use words like waste, oh, what a shame that there's so much waste. It's a very negative thing to say, and I don't like it. I don't say things like that because I see nature as a cycle, and unless people are intentionally, you know, on a larger scale, with larger scale, we're talking here, I'm talking about a homestead with 2 people. Guaranteed, you just plant a little bit and you're going to have a lot of extra stuff. Now, we have gotten out of the garden planting for some years because various things happened. Of course, there's plenty going on in the garden, but we used to have a very active irrigated field with all the leafy greens and herbs and many different things growing. But as we faced different challenges that we had to realize in our own life, my husband and I, about being more serious about everything that goes into our mouths. Everything. We've cut down a lot of stuff. I've cut out every single supplement now, other than at this point, now we're in May of 2025, every single supplement other than natural plants and natural herbs, roots, tubers, things like that, to modulate, regulate, and regenerate our bodies. I used to take all kinds of weird supplements and stuff, you know, as I was navigating that, and then I started getting influenced by people because I was, you know, it's very easy to be suggestible when you don't feel well, and a lot of bad advice was given. A lot of bad advice was taken, and I look back on that and I'm grateful that I survived the supplements and the fraud and the cheating and the repetition of the people just that know nothing about the items, how they're produced, where they come from, what they do to the individual person's body, and people just have so much to promote, right? So I stopped all that just because I had realized I had so many difficulties and I had to solve them. And then I went back to different scriptures that I had read where, you know, plants and herbs are mentioned. Plants and herbs, flowers and water as the healing modalities from the divine. So I began to take that a little seriously after all of my failed attempts at solving things. And this is where I've landed now. And I'm finding that both my husband and I are reaping the benefits of these choices. I met people along the way that helped to guide me. I have somebody that I'm close enough with now that I can call her up, and she's an expert in healing detoxification. She's a Christian lady. She loves Jesus Christ and God. So she has, what does she have? 3 healing clinics where people can go to learn how to transition their diet according to, you know, Arnold Ehret's teachings. She read those teachings in her youth and just realized that she's basically a medical missionary. So that's what she does, and she did show up and gave me a lot of good advice, and so I can call upon her when I get stuck, you know. But, you know, the transition is like a type of surrender, because you surrender with faith to the process and keeping that up as a lifestyle and having some self-discipline and sticking with that self-discipline for, you know, this as a lifestyle rather than as a little blip of cleansing and detoxing, that you actually make this your life. And for people that, like myself, that have a background, a very heavy medical background, because from the time I was born, I was a preemie baby, 2.5 pounds, and I had 11 surgeries by the age of 10. So if you can imagine the amount of toxicity to my body, I was vaccinated every year of my life until 2008. I stopped all of that. My last vaccinations were in 2008, and I regretted them terribly. I think I was already conscious that there was a problem. I was suspecting, I was trying to find information. It was very difficult for me to find information on that, even though I was working as an intensive care registered nurse at that time in a major Atlanta hospital. So the information on vaccines has only really become more readily available in recent years, and I'm grateful for that, because everybody should learn about poison and avoid that. Okay, because there are consequences down the line to pay for that. And it's a gamble. It's a serious gamble, not one that I would be willing to take. You know, I'm well aware that at any time anything can happen, and when you get into these facilities, the hospitals, you know, if you're not able to speak for yourself, if there's nobody there to defend you 24/7 and watch every single little thing, and even then you can't control things, you know, there's a huge risk of a lot of poisoning that can go on in a very short visit to a hospital. Radiation poisoning that damages the immune system and all the functioning of the body, weakens the mind. If you listen to Walter Bowert's talk, Operation Mind Control, you'll hear about how radiation is a key component of the military-grade body mind control. So, okay, then going through the rest of my life, I was always on antibiotics, steroids, different pills from my childhood. Anyway, I won't go into those negative things right now, but I stopped all the doctors. I stopped my permanent disability financial assistance because I was permanently disabled, and I went to a court in the United States and had that with all my medical records and my walker, and I had, you know, back surgery and major ear surgeries in 2007. Anyway, so this is all that I'm dealing with now, is a body that was very injured and has recovery to do. So this is how I go about that these days. I do a lot of juicing, and so success is there in that book. Neither my husband nor I are taking any of the RX, over the counter or prescribed. And you know, my husband was never into the doctors, even though his sister was a very accomplished, I would say, world-renowned neonatologist. Okay, in her own field of activities. Okay, so we've got this, you know, this is the first juice of the day, the first batch. After this, I've got some pineapple I would like to do, and I've got parsley, cilantro. Oh, I love to put all those. I love to put the parsley and cilantro. Anyway, I may not do all the fruit right now. I may put some of that pre-prepped into the fridge, ready for later on. A friend of mine brought this beautiful basket from a recent trip to Africa. She's also a missionary. So, spiritual missionary. Teaching people what she's learned about devotional living and how to do things, you know, in devotional life in the kitchen and things like that. Okay. So why don't we set up the juicer over here today? Okay, I won't bore you with the setup. Oh, well, maybe you'll want to see it. Here. So this is the main chamber that I apply here. There we go. And we've got the this is the single auger. Okay. Very strong. And the filter. There's different types of filters and a homogenizer that can be used on this juicer. This is called a Sana Supreme juicer. One day I'm going to be in the market for a Nama juicer. Money is tight right now, so that's not on the menu. But someday I would love to trial that juicer. I have a friend that has one. I could pop over there and try it out, see what I think. So here we go. This is for filtering the juice. Makes makes that go faster for me because I do make quite a large amount, as you see. But this is juice for you know, we're basically juice fasting, except for a little salad meal or a wrap or something like that, maybe later in the day. Maybe, you know, if we do even eat. You know. Okay, so let's start. Juice. See the beautiful fruits. This is the grapefruit. Pretty, right? The juice is really, I tell you, it's worth everything to do this because I should drain the greens. That's good. Drain the greens. I thought I was going to pause this video and not make it so lengthy, but, well, this is what it's turning out to be. Maybe there's somebody at home that is also juicing that might find this a little relaxing, rather than being like a juicing video all hyped up on steroids, right? Okay, there's the water. It will go right back down into the septic system here. It's a private septic system on this property. So we try to be conscientious about everything that goes down the drain. You can't just put a whole bunch of chemicals and horrid things down the drain, because that will poison our land. You know what I'm talking about, you people that know about these things. Okay. There, that's better. Back in action. See that too well. So what I found is that this process I appreciate so much. I look forward every day to doing this because there were many days where I couldn't, and my husband had to take over, or we just didn't have enough. There were periods where we had limited funds, so we couldn't purchase the things that we needed, or we couldn't get out to the garden because our focus was diverted with so many things to be productive out there. But that's our goal, is to get back to that. And that's why we're taking this seriously. Is to get full vigor back so that we have extra energy for all of the different homesteading realities. All the projects we'd like to do together as a couple and individually. And, you know, people that say, I don't know what to do with myself, life is so boring. Whoa. That I don't understand at all. I don't get that, because there's so many things to do, there's not enough time to do them. That's how I see it. Papaya into the juice. will pause the video here because this part is a little bit boring for you to. I'll be back. So the greens that I had there, all the salad greens, the mixed greens, that took me about 4 minutes on the Santa Supreme juicer to get that all to go through. And that's what I have here, okay? But I did make some adjustments. Okay, what I'll do is, because this is quite full, go ahead and just show you that's what resulted from the mixed salad greens, okay? That's like a quart, okay? And I'm gonna pour that here. Now I did add some grapefruit to that because it's good to have some of the citrus to help preserve them from turning, from oxidizing too quickly. I also am adding some lime. I'm going to go ahead and put that through now. Lime adds a very amazing flavor, as well as it has the preserving quality for the juice to help that last for a few hours. And the one thing I have forgotten to mention was that I have some turmeric from the garden, and this is the turmeric from our garden. We grow, tons of this stuff, so, however much we require we can utilize. And there's some ginger, okay, so that of course goes into the juice. Just put some of that in, that will help preserve that. And I am adding also parsley and cilantro, because the flavor complex of these plants, what to speak of the benefits for detoxification, nourishment, and cleansing, they're immeasurable. And I know, I'm well aware of what the juices end up like with these combinations, and they're really delightful to experience. So now I also have some pineapple that I prepped. Beautiful pineapple. So I'm just putting this through. So that's basically the greens for you. For this juice. Pushing the remainder of the greens through with some pieces of apple. Okay. Now this has a little latch you can close right there if you pull the cup away. But look at that. Look at the green in there from the cilantro and parsley, some lime, ginger, turmeric. Okay, that also gets added here. Then we move on to the next portion. Okay. Just a quick mention here, if you happen to find that your soft fruits with your juicer that's interesting, the power just went off here. Oh, that's interesting. There's a short. Oh. There must be a short in the power supply to that plug. Let's see if I can plug it. There we go. So that's where the short is. We've been wondering where the short is, and that's where it is. That plug. Okay. So that has to be repaired. Let's see how things go. Let's see if this will reach. Nope, it won't. Interesting. I have to solve this. Okay. So basically, if your soft fruits get stuck in the shoot, then you can use, I went and got some kale, and you can put that through the shoot, and that will help to push the soft fruits through. So I've got to relocate myself because we have a short in our electrical circuit here. It's the reality of life. So I've relocated with an electric socket that works on the other side for the rest of this juicing. Hopefully that will work. I'm going to plug this in. Looks like we have power. Some success, I will just pause the video for a moment. Okay, so this phase of the juicing is completed. So I'll show you and turn the juicer off. And just to give you an idea, this is all of the waste from all of that. That was from everything. Not bad, right? Not bad. Very dry. The juicer's effective. Then I've got the juice. When in doubt, I always add more greens. Love the greens. I'm going to put that into my filter bucket. And here I've got more juice, as you can see. Beautiful, beautiful juice. Okay, that's all the fruits mixed with the greens, and that's why that color is like that. The papaya's in there, the grapefruit, everything. And believe me when I tell you, there's really no way to describe how delicious this juice actually is to experience, and the sensation of supporting the body, recovering the body, nourishing the body, cleansing, detoxifying. This is where the mesh bag that I use, the juice, I just let that sort of seep out of the bag without having to squeeze too much initially, because really it just makes its way out the bag. I'm wearing the right clothing for this activity because, you know, if I was wearing clothing that could get stained, I would definitely be wearing my apron. But this outfit, if I splash, you won't notice the stain on this outfit. My friend Rukmini brought these outfits over from a company called Sacred Threads, and I got them at very, very good price. And they're super soft and comfortable because I need that, because I suffer with body sensitivity and pain that has been ongoing for years. So the chronic fatigue and chronic pain are something that I am tackling now with this lifestyle, gradually improving that. For years I couldn't sleep more than 20 minutes at a time due to pain in the joints of the body, in the skin, in the bones, so in the muscles. So I do this because this is what I learned works for me. And my husband is on board now, so he's seeing the benefits in his own life, taking part in all this. So there we go, the juice is ready. Let's have a look at this. It seems to me that the way that I use these vessels for preparing and sorting the greens and stuff, like I've gotten into a routine of preparing just about over a gallon of juice each time I juice. So these are half-gallon jars, and I've got just over a gallon of juice there. There you go, beautiful juice, revitalizing, for refurbishing the body. You give the great rocket fuel building blocks straight into the system for the most brilliant effect. Okay, thank you for being here. I hope there was something that you appreciated. I appreciate getting to have the experience and share for someone else out there that might appreciate. I have been online, I go online every day to watch people juicing and doing raw food preps, plant-based preps, to encourage myself. I try not to get caught up in all the hype out there, because I like to get down back to the basics and get down to, you know, I guess the simplicity of the process is a routine that's very pleasant to experience. I like to share that. So thank you very much to everyone for being here. Thank you in gratitude for the opportunity, the intelligence, the capacity, and the facility to make this happen. Have a great day.